All right, welcome to episode 9 of the Black LAbel Bodybuilding Podcast. Today we are joined by Jamie Harrison, UK super heavyweight bodybuilder, multiple overall winner, general fucking massive guy. So thank you very much for coming on. How are you getting on, man?
My pleasure, man. But yeah, I'm great. Yeah, off season's going really well. Obviously, pushing weight back up now, getting the food in. Just feeling good, man. Feeling really good. Training's good. Yeah, just in a good spot with it all.
No, that's what I like to hear. I kind of that's all the stuff I kind of want to get into today. But I know you've not done this kind of podcasty chatting to people as much before.
One or two I've done, but that's about it.
Yeah, well, kind of. I was just kind of interested, kind of take it back a bit, and how did you end up getting into the bodybuilding thing in the first place?
So really, I mean, I've always been into training, fitness, just generally, going about the gym and stuff like that. Literally, I was in the gym probably from about 12. So I've always been into that kind of, like that scene. Yeah. And then I joined the Royal Marines at 16. So that's like set me up mentally for how bodybuilding is. And obviously the physical aspect of, training, pushing yourself to that kind of limit is just transferred to bodybuilding fantastically. But I've always, like I say, preferred doing the weights and just literally bodybuilding more so than the running side of things. That's what Marines was. It was a lot of I'd say CrossFit style stuff, very fitness orientated, where I did it and I completed that, but I've always just loved being in the gym, banging the weights, mate. So kind of obviously I made that decision to leave the Marines, and then I just literally went straight into a prep, mate. Literally went straight into a prep. And that was it, mate. The rest is history. That was about 9 years ago. So
yeah. Well, I mean, how did the bit of the bodybuilding part come into it? Because you obviously being in the Marines and enjoying weights, there's a bit of a gap between that and getting on stage in your pants. Where did that part come from?
Basically, I've always just trained the way bodybuilders trained. Do you know what I'm saying? So that was where it stemmed from, because I enjoyed that training the most. I didn't enjoy powerlifting. I didn't enjoy doing, low rep stuff. It was always just literally tailored bodybuilding stuff. I'd go in the gym. I still train like I do back then, now. Do you know what I mean? So I was pretty much built for the bodybuilding kind of way. Do you know what I mean? And then obviously, to get on stage, it was more so I was being a PT as well. I left the Marines, I went straight into PT, and I just thought, let's give a show a crack, and obviously I'm going to look good. I'm going to give it a go and see how it is, and just see if I enjoy it first, and that'll go hand in hand with PT work. You are yourself, your poster, aren't you? So if I can look good in the gym, which I will do, being a bodybuilder, it'll transfer into, getting clients, making money and stuff like that. So that's basically where it came from, was just to progress in my work, basically. And then I just obviously loved it from there, basically. In fact, that's a lie. That's a lie, actually. I actually said I wouldn't do another show after my first show.
Oh, really?
I said I'm not doing that ever again, and then lo and behold, I was obsessed with it.
What happened in the first prep that made you say that you wouldn't do it again?
Just the experience. It's hard to say. I'm not chucking anyone under the bus or previous coaches or anything like that. Nothing like that. But from obviously what I know now is in the bodybuilding kind of world. The first time I ever did a prep, it wasn't the smoothest. Let's put it that way. Do you know what I mean? And it was just it felt like hell, mate. Do you know what I mean? But it's always going to when you're new to it. You've never dieted. You've never even experienced that low body fat. So couple that with everything, it's always going to be shit, isn't it? Do you know what I mean? So it was just, it could have been done a little bit better, should we say?
Definitely. You don't need to throw it on the bus, but I think we can all imagine there's different ways of skinning the cat, right? And some of them are more shit than others for that person.
I think you've always got to experience that shit prep anyways, to actually go into it and learn that hardship. End of the day, I didn't have as much muscle back then. I was fatter. I was in a shit position. So it wasn't necessarily what he'd done. It was just probably where I was at the time. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's a combination of things. Like you've got to find you've got to find the way that works for you, which I think is something I bang on about in this podcast all the time. Is like people I think try and pretend that bodybuilding is like there's this formula, and there's just not. You've got to find whatever the thing is that lets you do it. But also, I totally agree. You've got to do a shit prep at some point. Like for me, it was like my second prep I did. My first prep, it was fine. Did a first timer, so it was fine. But like I wasn't like truly peeled, right? I wasn't. I was still a bit soft. My second prep, which was what 4 years ago or something, I did it with Kuba, who I think I still have a lot of respect for him as a coach. But like he gets people peeled, right? And it was my first. I was always a fat kid, so my first time getting peeled was like, I felt fucking horrific, man. Like, I felt like I was dying for a while. Like, and he wasn't. And like at points, I wasn't even from half the prep. I wasn't doing cardio, and like we weren't pushing anything crazy or anything. It was just being that lean when you've never been that lean before. It is, you're not going to have a good time.
Legs are like lead, mate, and no matter what you do, nothing's going to shift that. You know what I mean? So.
Yeah. Well, for me, it's like you're lean when like you're sitting on the couch. You need to go for a piss, and you're sitting there being like, "How long can I leave this before I have to walk up to go for a piss?" That's a good measure for getting lean. I'm like, that. These are the things that like you need to experience it to explain it, and trying to say to someone that you do that for fun is a bit of a weird conversation to have.
Crazy one.
But first prep, obviously, as you say, like we weren't a big fan. What was the turning point for doing it again then?
I just basically obviously finished the prep. Didn't like ever not be in the gym because I've always lived the routine of it and all that. I kind of like took, I think it was about 2 years away just to kind of, I wouldn't even say roll into off season because I kind of just fucked about a little bit, if I'm honest with you. Just still young, I was still going out, I was still partying, I was still doing this, that and the other, do you know what I mean? And, whilst in the gym and just progressing that way. But yeah, I did have a bit of a down period where I just wasn't really progressing as I should do from a show. Do you know what I mean? So, I just kind of got another coach. Always been in the gym, love it anyways. So it just kind of progressed from there, mate. Just ended up doing another show. When was it after? I think it was a long while till I did another show. I think the next one was 2020. So I had a really big break. And I did grow a lot in that time. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then obviously from 2020, that's where it got really serious, really like proper serious. So, yeah.
So 2020, that's COVID year, right? So did you compete right before it, or were you one of the mad guys that competed during all that stuff?
It was during it, mate. Yeah, I went to Alicante actually. Yeah, it was an absolute nightmare.
Yes, I remember seeing I've seen the photos. You had the face mask on stage, right? My first prep was the PCA first timer show they did in 2020. So not quite the same, but I relate to that weird time. So did you already plan to compete that year before all that stuff happened?
No, actually. Like at the time, I was with an IFBB pro. I had a missus who was an IFBB pro at the time, and she was competing over there, and I just kind of thought, do you know what? It's been a while since I've prepped. Let's just do one. If she's going over there, I'm going to be watching anyways. I'll go and I'll just do it. Do you know what I mean? It turned out to be a good prep. Got shredded. That was the first time I got proper low body fat, like proper low. And I won the overall at that one actually, and I almost won my fucking pro card, which is mad to think because like the physique then to now is just so different, and like I think it's just sometimes the right place, right time with pro cards, isn't it? Like if I'd got it then, that's pretty crazy to think because my physique is just nothing. You know what I mean compared to this now.
So, absolutely. I mean, I think like people, you hear it all the time now. People buying on about like pro cards are easy to get now, and they hand them out and all that, and it's like no, they're really fucking not. The standard now of amateurs is, I think, absolutely crazy.
It's got a lot bigger and better, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. You which kind of brings me on. I want to talk a little bit about your prep this year. So you competed. Was it eight? Was it April? You started the year. Was it April-ish time?
Um, it was end of April, start of May, I'm pretty sure, or start of May and then middle of May. Yeah, I think it was around then, actually. Yeah,
And it was around about things. It was when I was competing. So I remember seeing your pictures popping up.
yeah.
And obviously you did. It was the same weekend you pulled off the double overall win, right?
Yeah, that was sorry, that was the 4th of May and the 5th of May. Yeah, so 4th of May was Two Bros. That was the MJTX or something show, and then PCA St Helens it was on the 5th. So yeah, I'd never done a PCA show, so I thought it'd be cool just to go and do one. So I just literally competed on the 4th, flew right over to St Helens and did that one the next day, which was a bit of a bad mood, mate, because I was fucked.
I can totally imagine. Again, absolutely not in the same level. But this year I did a back-to-back show. I did a NABA show and a PCA show, and I remember driving back from the NABA show just thinking, why the fuck have I agreed to compete the next day? Like, it sounded like such a good idea at the time, and it just, that level.
You don't realize, do you, how like taxing and like you've been on stage posing that long, your body's like sore, man, after, innit?
Yeah, absolutely. So how did I like nerding out about some of the X's and O's, right? How did you run the two shows on like Saturday, Sunday? Like, what was the approach for that?
What do you mean, like the peak weeks and stuff for?
Yeah.
So the 4th of May was like the Two Bros one. So that one I really wanted to like win because I just, I was going to Alicante like a week later. So, if I want to turn pro, I just think I should be winning that show, no doubt.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So that was a big one for me. And the peak week, so we did a lot. So my body holds water like crazy. I don't need a lot of food to fill up. For a bigger guy, mate, I look good on about 600 to 800 gram of carb. As much as my body wants double, triple, my body just doesn't need it, mate. I just get extremely full and I spill very quickly. So we basically did 1200 gram of carbs, 1400 gram of carbs, and I was absolutely bursting, obviously. And I literally just do proteins and fats the day before all day. Obviously, there was lots of direct use in there and stuff like that. But I was just bursting full, mate. I just didn't need anything extra. So we overcooked it on the carbs, but it's all learning. I mean, next time, us not to put that much in. But again, it's all just learning. It's the first peak with Martin. So, we just kind of proteins and fat it, and then what did I do? Push. Sure, I literally had a burger and fries from Five Guys, so that was always the plan because we didn't want to peak or anything for PCA. It was just literally like next day. Do you know what I mean? So I had burger and chips, and then there was no protocol for it. Just literally. Just walk on PCA basically, and that was pretty much it. But again, that burger and fries probably wasn't a good idea because PCA look was a bit soft, but it was obviously enough to win it. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, so, I mean, I obviously wasn't there in person, but the pictures in that PCA show, I think, I think it looks fucking class. How like you look fucking massive, right? So I guess like there's always the trade-off there of like if you spilling's maybe not the right word, but like super bursting full and then maybe not being as sharp.
The thing is with me, mate, is because like got quite dense muscle even when I'm flat. Yeah. Like I've got some photos on my phone, mate, where I did post Alicante. I literally did 3 days, no carbs, an hour cardio, mate, and I was flat, but my physique is just so bubbly and like grainy, and it's just like it doesn't need to be filled hard. That look is like bang on. Like there's enough muscle there to support the flatness, if you know what I'm saying. So whenever I pump them carbs in me, I just lose them lines, and it's just we need to keep them to go on stage with, really. So
I think it's interesting, with like doing the PCA show, for example. The start, like I think PCA still got a really good standard, especially when you get to like the British kind of and universe kind of level and the national shows. But with those regionals, when someone like you or some of the bigger lads who are right there, they just walk in and clean up sometimes. Not obviously not every time, but there are kind of levels to it, and yeah, you are at that point where you've got that much dense muscle, as you say. Like, there's not that many guys that are competing with you in that. There's a handful of you, right? And you're going to meet them at a British, probably not your average regional show.
Yeah.
So how did you find doing? So it was Alicante. That was the pro qualifier you did the next weekend, right?
Yeah, that was like the main dance. That was like the
Yeah.
2 shows before was just like kind of a peak kind of test and stuff like
Yeah.
that. And then to be honest, mate, like the Alicante show was probably my worst look, if I'm honest with you.
Right.
Just out of, I think, just stress, mate, and tiredness. Like, the whole prep, I'd been prepping for like since January for that. That was middle of May. Did 2 shows the weekend before. Like a lot of like pushing down and peaking and dehydrating and then filling up. And do you know what I mean? Like, by the time I got over to Spain, traveling over there and all that as well, I just feel like my body was stressed out, mate, by that point. And it looked a bit soft again. You're in a hotter climate and just trying to, get that right is just difficult. So, and yeah, the standard was amazing, like really, really good. I knew if I was like more on, again, it's no one's fault. It was just how it went. Do you know what I mean? If I was more on, I would have probably placed a lot higher. But yeah, it was just a bit of a shit placing for me. But I definitely didn't deserve to win at all. Not at all, mate. I didn't. I wasn't on whatsoever. But yeah, that's why I kind of wanted to do the show in the end of October, but I pulled that prep, haven't I? So I just wanted to kind of rectify Spain because I wasn't happy with my placing, and I was already qualified to do the October show, but my body, again, my mindset more than anything, wasn't in the prep, mate. Because I've been dieting all year, so I just kind of called it, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, mentally, you've got. Well, no, like you've got to want to do it and know that you need to do it. Or maybe not feel like you need to do it. That's what it's about, right? So if you're, I mean, I say when I first messaged you, I actually for a while thought you were still in prep because of how lean you were staying. What's the plan now?
Basically, like obviously pushing up now. I'm still on cycle now, so like we're just using that. Pushing up, mate. Like my calories just been bumped up again on the week on Tuesday. Sorry. They're in a good spot now, like 5,200 on a training day, 4,600 on a rest day, 1 high day a week on my quad day, which is working well. I'm still starving, like, but I'm a hungry boy, so I can eat for England, mate. So yeah, just pushing up and trying to stay in the best condition that I can, mainly for myself, because every time I've done an off season, I'm renowned for getting overly soft. It's just how I've always kind of done it. Do you know what I mean? I've got a missus, got a kid. I love the family life, mate. I love taking them out eating. It's just part of what I do with the bodybuilding. So yeah, it's just more so keeping that routine. This is the best I've been post-show, post-diet, pushing up in this shape. I feel really good. So I want to just carry that on, mate, basically. And yeah, I'm growing very well off it. So
Good. I mean, what do you think? What do you think? Is there anything that you're doing differently this year that you think is keeping you tighter?
Not being a pig, mate. That's what I say. Not snacking. So I'll have my off meals, mate. I'll probably eat. I'll always eat a lot. I always eat a good meal. But in the past, I've always like snacked on stuff and snacked here and there and added a bit of this. And I'm not ashamed to say that, mate. It's just how it's always. But this time, been a lot more stricter. Just a lot more on my diet, mate. Cardio always stays in for me. I'm always doing at least 30 minutes. So that is obviously keeping me more routined and tighter as well. But other than that, mate, it's more so the food I put, because I gain weight like no one's business. It's happened so quick for me. So, that's what it is for me, is just keeping tight on my diet. That's pretty much the only thing different, mate.
Yeah, I think it's interesting hearing you say that you've got a big appetite, because I'd say more often than not now, I hear people like say they find the off season harder because of eating. Now again, not comparing, but for me, like I can't relate to that. Like I could eat, I could eat just forever. Right? It doesn't matter if it's chicken and rice or if it's tasty stuff. Like I just don't. I can't relate to that. But then I also used to be a fat kid, so
same.
Yeah, so it's good hearing someone else say that, because for a while I was like, what's going on here? But do you find dieting Do you find it hard being hungry when you're dieting, or are you now at a point where your food's high enough anyway because you're going to be carrying that much size, right? Presumably you're going to still be eating a decent amount.
Yeah, it is. It's lowest it really goes is like, I mean, maybe 300, 250 or something. But like for me, that's obviously nothing. Do you know what I mean? So it's like no matter how high the food goes, what I've found, mate, is I've always used to have to go pretty low on food to get shredded. But like what I found is it doesn't really matter how high the food is really, because as much as it's higher, and yes, you've got carbs in every meal and whatnot, you're still suffering out your ass, mate, no matter what. So like it is. It's more of a mental thing. If you know you've got chicken and rice or chicken and veg, even though you're going to feel the same, you're probably going to feel better eating the chicken and rice. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But you still feel shit. Do you know what I mean? So, yeah, I mean, with dieting now, like once I'm in and locked in, it's like I'm just headstrong for it. Do you know what I mean? And that's actually a good point, because I knew when I entered this prep here for October, my head just wasn't in the diet. So for me, like I was just thinking about food and wanting food, and that's how I know that that isn't the right time to do it, because when I'm in prep, mate, and everything's ticking along, I'm just a machine. I just go and you know what I mean. It doesn't ever bother me in a sense. And I'm ready to diet at that point as well. Usually on a long off season, I'm filled up, I'm ready to go. Whereas, yeah, jumping into that show again, it was a no go. I was already hungry and tired anyway, so.
Yeah, how does your kind of normal preps look like? You say you do cardio year round, so do you have to take cardio really high, or is it more just a case of like adding in some like fat burners and bringing it down that way, or how does that? Yeah, how does your prep kind of normally go, or how did the last one go anyway?
Last one was wicked. So from January to May, that was honestly a really seamless prep. It was the easiest one I've done, to be fair. Martin absolutely smashed that prep, like for keeping me fresh. Refeeds as and when, and it was quite regular, and yeah, it just didn't seem like an absolute slog. Cardio was probably up to 45 minutes maybe max, which is very sound. Do you know what I mean for a prep? And then yeah, it was that was probably the best one. So that was great. The one before that was like 70 minutes of cardio for 10 week. Do you know what I mean? Like that was a graft. Like, so they could be so different. Do you know what I mean? Like,
yeah. I mean, every prep's going to be different, right? I think that's fair to say. You don't know what you're going to do, but yeah, it's good when you get in the flow and find the one that's working. So as you're saying with Martin, was he kind of pulling you down and then refeeding you as you go and then just dropping that way?
Kind of like he gets you ready quite early, so it gives you a lot of time to play about with food and obviously fill back up and have, should we say, diet breaks, like little breaks in between. It's not a diet break, but you know what I mean, like to get you in shape early to then bump your baseline food back up again. It's a really good way of keeping you fresh and kind of just cruising into it a little bit. So yeah, that's what I've noticed in mine. It gets you ready super early, so it's like all go, if you know what I mean. Like, but it almost feels like it's effortless. It's really, really, he's a great coach, really great coach.
Yeah, that's cool. Yeah. But yeah, if you were doing the Instagram science bodybuilder, you'd be talking about dropping fatigue and all that kind of shit, right? But it is the same. It's the same stuff. But so how long have you worked with Martin then?
Just over a year, I believe now. Actually, yeah, not too long, but definitely long enough to establish a good relationship with it all. Yeah,
that's good. I think. I mean, I've obviously seen a bunch of his clients. It's hard to miss his clients, right? He's absolutely killing it at the moment. I know a couple of guys that have prepped off him, and they all sing his praises. He's clearly doing it right. Did he come to the Alicante show with you?
Yeah, I stayed in the apartment with him, like, so it was. It was pretty, it was good.
Yeah, good. I think it was that fun. I've only had it a couple of times where a coach is there. It's kind of a different experience. It's a bit more fun. You get doing in-person check-ins and all that kind of stuff. It's a good thing.
Absolutely.
Do you do cheat meals in your prep, or do you just do high days?
He chucked in like a burger and chips now and again, but it's just when I kind of really needed it. It was more sort of high days, so you could probably track obviously the carb intake and stuff like that. Yeah, I didn't have too many like cheat meals as such, really. I can't remember actually. I think with Staff, the one before that I said I did a lot of cardio, I was having a lot more cheat meals than that one. So they both were, but my physique looks really good with like a dirty meal.
Right. Okay.
It always has done, more so than obviously just higher carb refeeds. I think just the higher fats does my physique a world of good. Do you know what I mean? For the actual look, yeah, it's always like peeled up, shredded, like popping. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
After a cheat meal, whereas the carbs doesn't feel the same. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I always wonder if like it definitely could be the fat and the sodium, but I wonder if also part of it is like if you're a guy who enjoys food, like probably just getting the mental break of like getting to sit and actually not have a bodybuilder meal makes a difference as well.
Yeah, that cortisol lowering, isn't it? You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly. It's interesting both. So did you prefer doing Martin's approach rather than like a SAS like more cheat meals, or if you're
They're
to
both
pick one
very
again,
good.
because I mean you get the same, not the same result in the end. They're obviously different preps, but like you achieve the same goal in the end. What one do you prefer?
Probably the high days, mate, to be honest with you,
Yeah,
because one, I can control them. I know exactly what I'm eating. I can prep them. Obviously, like if I'm going out eating like Five Guys, then Turkish, then it's different all the time. So I'm not going to know what's working. Do you know what I mean? And like when I get in that dieting mind frame, I love my clean food anyways, mate. I can't wait to eat my bowl of oats. Do you know what I mean?
yeah,
So, like,
yeah.
you know what I mean? Like that's it's again. I enjoy that anyway. So I definitely say the high days more so than just cheat meals. I don't feel as like cravey as well after eating like that high day rather than the cheat meal. You know, if you eat like burger and chips, I just feel it goes in and then I want dessert, then I want this. And, do you know what I mean? When you're that hungry, it's just like you want to try and keep that to a minimum.
Yeah, sometimes it can be. Yeah, the problem is the next day you got to switch back onto that clean diet approach, and it can be. Yeah, it can definitely be a bit of a.
It's like you don't want exposure to that cheat meal till well
Yeah,
after it. Being like
yeah. Before you know it, you're sitting watching fucking like Man versus Food, and like I've done that before, and that's a recipe for fucking disaster.
I think everyone who's dieted like hard has just watched food reels, mate.
Yeah,
It's just everyone else says that, you know.
yeah. You get lean enough, and like you're not gonna fucking put porn on. You're gonna sit and watch someone eat weird burgers.
That is your porn at the time.
Exactly. It's way more satisfying then. But
Yeah.
all right. So I kind of what's so like you right now, like you're at a point where you can, as I say, like clear up a regional show overall, and you're now at a point of fighting for that pro card, right? That's clearly the next thing, right? Like, is that battle? When do you think you'll next prep?
I'd probably say right now it's probably 2026 because next year I'm getting married and I don't want to do a stress of a show and all that with that coming up. You know, having said that though, I will be dieting for my wedding, like not seriously, but getting in shape and feeling good. Because I'll definitely be due a pullback by then. And if it falls right, I feel really good and the timing's right, and I'll come back from honeymoon, I'm in shape, potential for like the end of the year show. We'll see. But yeah, probably 2025, early off or something like that. On the summer, 2026. Sorry. But yeah, it's going to give me a lot of time to off season and get big, mate, and that's what I'm really excited about now. He's just getting huge.
Especially if you've been dieting basically all year, I can totally imagine. But yeah, I got married last year. Definitely don't recommend doing a full blown prep during the preparation for that, because your fiance will kill you. So
I actually want to marry her.
yeah, exactly. You don't put Tren into your wedding prep. It's a bad recipe. Like,
I don't even want to hear that word, mate. I hate this stuff.
yeah. Well, that's funny because I mean, I talked to as I mentioned it earlier, the first episode of this podcast was with Andy Scott after he won his pro card. He was telling me that was the first prep he did without Tren.
Right.
Which I always think is quite a fucking bold move, right? Like whenever you hear someone prepping and not use Tren, it's a bit like, are you sure? But so I take it that you would you still use Tren even though you're saying that you don't want to hear it?
I do obviously enjoy what you get out of it, but the actual compound as it is, mate, I just hate the side effects of it, mate. The effects of it are just, the irritability, the no sleeping, like the sweating. It's horrible. It's disgusting. I'd shut off all emotion while I'm on Tren, mate, and yeah, there's no getting around it. I've always been that way, when you use it. I think you either get on with it or you don't. Or some people don't get on with it, but they love it. Do you know what I mean? But I'm not, I don't love it. But I definitely use it. There's no compound like it when you're in that much of a deficit, when there's advantages towards it. That's why everyone uses it usually for a prep. You know how good it is for that kind of scenario, but do we need it? Like I say, do you need
it? yeah, I know. But then, do you want to risk not using it? I mean, I'm in the last week of my off season. Oh, this push up. It's not the last week of my off season. I've got plenty more to go. But I've put training for the last 4 weeks. But I'm someone that I get on with it really well. Other than the sleeping is really fucking annoying. And I will be honest, someone crashed into the back of my car like 4 days after the first shot of it, and I definitely felt more capable of going off it though. Like when I got hit the car to get their insurance details. Craig ended up being uninsured as well, so it was a really good time to be starting your Tren cycle. Okay. I mean, you hear some horror stories and people are like, fucking start like watching tranny porn or like cheating on their misses. I've heard some mental stories that people blame on Tren, but
absolutely, man. It all goes around, mate.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, enough on that. Something I was quite interested to ask you about, because you talk about a little bit on your Instagram, is your approach to training, right? Because I think, again, something I try and do in this podcast a lot is say that there's fucking loads of different ways of doing this. And I think what you do nowadays seems to be quite different, in that it's super old school, if that's the right way. I don't know if it's what I think of a lot of times bodybuilding training. So for people who don't know, how would you describe your training?
Instinctively, that's what I'd say. So whenever people ask me about like training, I go off instinct, mate. So, volume, sets, all that. Like, I hate the word auto-regulate. I hate that. I think it's so fucking Chad. But when you're like, when like obviously in off season, your capabilities are higher for recovery. You're on cycle. Like you can probably get away with some more intensifiers. You probably get away with a bit more volume. So I just listen to my body, mate. I rest when I need to rest. How sore I am the next day, etc. And I've just done it that long now where I know how much I can get away with in a session. So it's just about more time doing it. But yeah, it's instinctively, like I won't have a set plan. I go with what I feel, connect with. I always have a rough guide. The sessions always are quite similar. Do you know what I mean? How they run. But if I'm going to do a T-bar row or bent over row, it doesn't really matter. I'm hitting a compound movement. Do you know what I mean? Like I keep that kind of how it is. But chopping and changing with kind of exercises, not afraid to do that at all. In terms of like volume, like I do a lot of like old school stuff. Like I said, go in there, let's say I'm on chest press with inclines. 30 kilos, build up with the reps, 40 kilos. I just go open up because I'm connecting, I'm warming up. It's fun. I'm hitting failure by the end of it, and I might chuck a little cheeky drop set in there, depending how I'm feeling. How strong I am. Just it's all would feel with me, and I love training like that. I don't do logbooks just because it distracts the session. I like to put my headphones in, just roll with it, mate, and just give it everything. That's how I train, really. But yeah, that's what I'd probably say is just instinct and go with feel more than anything.
Yeah, I mean, do you have? It's funny because like the other person I talked to had a very similar answer to this was big Adam Harding. Change of Flexion. I don't follow me. Just followed one at PCA show, and he's he's a 300-pound guy on stage. Like on stage, he's very tall as well. He's like 6'6"
Yeah.
or 6'7" or something like that. But
Yeah.
he's another person who trains like that. Just coincidentally happens to be a guy with a fucking huge amount of muscle, right? So yeah, I think that's quite cool. So do you follow like a split, or do you fully just go off like, I feel like I can train this today based on?
Yeah, so I've kind of like, I have been doing 2 days on, 1 day off, but because I'm obviously eating a lot more food now, some days I wake up, mate, and I just feel like training, and I'm not sore where I need to train. I'm just like, I'm rolling with a training day, you know? I tend to do max 3 days in a row. I've not done 4 yet because I just feel I'm a bit battered by then. Do you know what I mean? But like, if it was there, I'd take it. I wouldn't necessarily just rest because I have to, but I'm always pretty fucked by then, to be honest. But again, with my shifts with work and stuff, you know, I do night shifts in the month as well. So my training my recovery has to come into that as well. So when I'm on nights, like sometimes I won't train for 2 days, and I'll do one on one off when I'm doing nights. You know, I focus a lot on recovery and how I feel more than anything. If I wake up after a night shift and I'm bollocks, man, I'm not going to go and train. You know, sensible with it, and you know we grow when we rest as well. So I think my sweet spot is like 4 days in a week is really good actually. But I'll push up to 5 as well, and it's very good. But yeah, it's very instinctive in a way.
Yeah, no, that's I think that's cool. Again, for me, I was always a logbooking guy. Like I got probably, I'd say, properly into really into bodybuilding, following Luxando. So it was very like DC training, logbook, everything, all that kind of stuff. But
I've tried it, but yeah.
well, it's thing like, I got on really well with it for a while. I was total one of those guys that was like, you have to use the logbook, progressive overload. I was that guy, right? But this year after my prep, my coach Hilly put me on a more basically no logbook, way higher volume, just doing like pyramid sets up. So it'd be kind of what you're talking about. It'd be like just do sets of 10, like maybe four-ish sets of 10 on the last set would be where you're hitting failure. And what you're doing with that in between that doesn't really matter. It's just like moving the weight, and maybe the second last set would still be kind of hard, or maybe the last 2 sets would be quite hard or whatever, and then you hit the failure set, and that is by far the most progress I've ever made.
Yeah.
Easily. And we swapped back to the logbooking, and now, to be honest, I'm like, after I've finished this next diet phase, I'm definitely just going back to train like that again, because it was fun. Like, yeah, put on like a mix or an album or something, and just like, you're not overthinking it. It doesn't matter if I get 13 reps and I got 12 last week. Like, you know what I mean? Because like that. It doesn't work like that. Like it's not actually like a video game where you've got to like level up and get the experience points like that. It's not how it works. It's just about pushing yourself and then eating the food and doing your recovery and taking your supplements, and that's it.
There's one like conversation I had when I was younger, like in the gym back home, when I was kind of not in bodybuilding, but just in training. Guy who owned the gym, his name was Mike. He's own Body Tech, old school bodybuilder. He just said to me, like, if you want to progress, drop your ego at the door, and that was always like a big thing for me. Like, I've never ego lifted. I don't like doing like anything below 8 repetitions, like 6 at the absolute max, because it's like, I just get injured so much, and I've got that many injuries now. It's just like, it's pointless. I'd rather keep my longevity going in this game and training smartly more so than just, I've deadlifted 300 kilo, fucking whoop to do. Do you know what I mean? Like, do you know what I mean? Like, I'd rather drop that 250 or whatever and rep it out and fucking hit it intensely and go all in. Do you know what I mean? Like, that's how I see it. Again, everyone trains differently and have their methods, I get it. But like, that's just for me the most fun, most progression. Yeah, just Seth Rossi style, mate. Just go in there and bang the fucking iron. Do you know what I mean?
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? Like,
no, I love it, man. Like, it's just, you know, and you know, obviously I'm talking to you about it. You know this, but like in UK bodybuilding, we're just so fucking dogmatic with how we do things, and like, and it's cool. It works for some people, but like, not everyone's JP, and not everyone is going to get the same results like doing 4 reppers. Like it's just not going to happen. Like
not everyone can kind of get in the zone that he can get into and push
no,
himself like he can do. That kind of stuff works because he's an animal, and like,
yeah,
do you know what I mean? But a
yeah,
lot of
yeah,
people
not for sure. Like I try and explain it to younger guys at the gym now to kind of, and it's again, it's what I'm speaking about it because it's what I used to do, and I didn't see as much progress. Where it's like, you, if to do that really low volume hit style training, like you've got to be so good at recruiting muscle.
yeah.
You've got, and like every rep has got to be this like monumental effort that I just don't think most people can do it. I don't think most people can ever do it. I
No,
can't do it. Like I
no,
can't do it. Like I as soon as I start doing those kind of sets, like nope, I don't get any progress.
yeah.
You just need to
And
do more. You know.
And again, like, you know, like obviously, like to do them sets, you've got to put everything energy wise into them. You know, I see guys like pacing up and down the gym, like all that, mate. It's just like I get that aggression doing the style I do because I'm in it, I'm moving,
Yeah.
I'm flowing. That's whereas if I'm walking around trying to ramp myself up, it actually tires me out, and because I'm not actually I'm feeling aggressive to go and do that. Whereas if I'm rolling with it, I'm feeling that zone. Do you know what I mean? That's my zone. Whereas that's their zone. Do you know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
that's what I feel.
Yeah. No, absolutely. No, that's cool. I'm kind of say I'm glad to hear that from another really big guy, and you know,
Oh, absolutely.
it's
100%.
it's for people listening. Like I think listen to really big guys is advice that I would give anyone. Um,
Yeah.
so actually, kind of related to question a question got related to training, so I thought I would throw it in.
Yeah.
Question was if you're shoulder dominant, would you do chest isolation exercises first? I presume in a chest session, but just in general, how do you feel about doing isolation movements before your compounds?
Yeah, I do. That's good. You know, if you want to connect to the muscle that you're going to work, I find that works really well to, you know, isolate it. Like for instance, I've got a dodgy hips, got bursitis, and got glute tendinopathy. So I do a lot of like quad extensions. I do quad extensions before I do any squatting, leg press, anything, because I'm too strong in my legs to go on straight onto a leg press or a squat. So I'd rather burn, like literally blast them on the quad extensions. They're not strong, so I don't get much tension on my hip, basically.
Yep.
So I absolutely use that method for legs. I sometimes use it for chest. My chest has actually become on loads this year, so like I can roll straight into a pressing movement and be connected really well. But I used to do, like I say, a fly machine just to isolate that, squeeze it, get it activated, and it's full of blood, mate, and I can usually connect to it pretty well when I do a press. So yeah, I absolutely agree with that. If you need to bring up your chest, then by all means hit it more than your shoulders. Like tag your shoulders on the end of that. Do you know what I mean? Like focus solely on your chest, and that's definitely one thing why my chest has come up this year is I've left all my shoulder work to literally the end, mate, and I'll nail the chest just because it needs to come up more. So
I was going to ask how did you bring it up? So you just moved about where you're putting it.
yeah, just like focus more on like the push days. It's literally just chest and shoulders, but I'll do about 4 or 5 sets on chest, then I'll do 2 on shoulders, and that's just how I've always like done it now
Yeah.
going forward.
Yeah. I'd add to that, like if you're shoulder dominant and your chest lacking, like it's always worth also making sure your form's decent, because it's all well and good
Definitely.
doing more exercises, but if you're not actually using your chest, then that's half of it. That's where
But people,
sorry, okay.
go on. I just think people go too heavy with like chest movement stuff. Like you got to be able to to feel it again. Do you know what I mean? Like if you're gonna use every muscle over your chest to move it, front delts come into it. Just drop it a little bit, stretch it out, feel. Do you know what I mean? Like that's the big one, like for the chest.
Yep. No, I completely agree. That's like for me, like chest is a definite strong point. But like I'm not that strong at chest. I'm not the heaviest presser, but I can really connect well with my chest, and I think that's why it's decent compared to the rest of my body. I think mind muscle connection is this weird things. People always argue like how important is mind muscle connection in terms of building muscle, and I personally think once you're at a certain point of muscle mass, because you're not going to connect with no muscle. So if you've not got a chest, like that you probably don't need to worry about it. But when you're at a certain point, like I think it's super important, because how else do you know that what's moving the weight? Like, you know yourself, like if you're doing a press, you can choose if it's your chest or if it's your delts doing that movement, just almost mentally, just by deciding that.
Yeah, and that's just years of training, mate, and getting, you know what I mean, like getting that connection, like 100%.
Yeah. So kind of, I mean, I guess kind of related to talking about years of training, another question was, and this is way broader, it's not just about training, what do you think separates and differentiates, that sounds way more fucking fancy than I meant it to, what do you think is the difference between your average lifter and an advanced lifter?
I think the difference is,
like, what do you think takes someone from, average gym guy to someone who's advanced, who actually looks like the lifter? Yeah.
no, I just
ask some of the natural guys in my gym, and they would tell you that's the only difference.
yeah, I think just time spent doing it, because, like, you know what I mean, like, you don't build that kind of muscle tissue from a year in the gym. Like, you gotta literally earn your stripes in this kind of game. Like, 8 to 10 years of like lifting, like, you know, getting that stability in the lift, connecting to it like over and over and over again. That's what's going to get you from normal to advanced. Do you know what I mean? There's now obviously all the other shit comes into it: supplements, food, sleep recovery, all that. But if we're actually talking about mature muscle, it's just time spent doing it, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, I think for me, like, and I put myself in the advanced lifter, it depends who you're comparing me to, but I'd say a big part of it is also where it doesn't feel like a chore and it's just what you do. It's like when I talk to people about training, and like they brag that, oh, they've not missed a training day in 2 months, and I'm like, yeah, that's how it should be. Like, that's not something to brag about. That's just what you do. Is you just or I've I haven't cheated my diet this week, and it's like,
but that's probably another good point. Actually, is what we'll say is practice, mate, because like it takes practice to diet. We're never good from dieting from the off. Practice in the gym, learning form, like literally practicing what you're preaching. Do you know what I mean? So that's a big one. Is just like the time spent practicing how to train, and you only learn that by time doing it. So that's probably a big difference, in my opinion.
Yeah, and I know for me, like the first time I prep, I'm like, this is it. I'm all in. I'm doing everything I need to be doing. Everything's spot on. You do your first off season. I'm putting everything into this off season. Then it gets to the second prep, and you're like, no, this is more than what I was doing before. That wasn't even really that serious. And you don't realize it at the time until you're doing it and you practice it. And
absolutely, and you get more adherent as well. So like again, as the preps have gone through the years, mate, like seasoning, sauces, like every prep I've not having sauces, not having seasoning, just salt and pepper. Like, it's just progressively got more intense and more effort towards it, because you want it more. You know what needs to be done. Like, everything just practice. You know what I mean? So
exactly. And you stop trying to. For me, it was stop trying to outsmart things. Like I like talking about season's a really good example. Like, a lot of guys will be like, oh, it doesn't really make a difference, and and like you can see, and it's like, but it does make a tiny difference. And if you're really if you're really fucking putting everything into it, you want to maximize every fucking tiny little variable that you possibly can, and like trace calories from you putting on, some shit seasoning on your food is one, or like. Ruining your digestion with like garlic and onions and stuff like that. Like, people don't understand that it does make a tiny difference.
It does 100%, mate. It does, and like, even if it's like 30 calories, right? Which a lot of the seasons are more than 30 calories than what they use.
Yeah.
But even if, let's say 50, you know what I mean? Over 16 weeks of 50 per week, like, that's a lot of calories, man. Do you know what I mean? Like, and that'll definitely look different on your physique. If you didn't have that, you'd be leaner. You would be. You know what I mean? So
yeah. And but then at the same time, obviously, needless to say, like, that kind of shit only matters if you are actually on it for the 16 weeks. Like, if you go without your seasonings and whatever, but then you fucking, after 3 weeks, go and eat a tub of Ben and Jerry's, like, that's go and fix that.
Yeah. And also as well, like you can probably you can only get so lean as well, like in a sense. Do you know what I mean? So like even if you do use seasons, have them in throughout, because a lot of people do, and
Yeah,
you know I've done it as well, and they've got shredded. So would I have got more lean if I didn't have them in? You know, yeah, it's probably just practice for the next prep, isn't it? To then not have them in and see what happens. But
yeah,
you know, you can always be leaner, can't you? But then there's that fine line of am I shredded enough where I look like shit and I've lost a bit of like fullness and stuff, or do you know what I mean? So it's like, is that really a matter? But it's learned debating, isn't it? It's like, who
yeah.
knows?
I think your body also, like, every time, I know for me, every time I've dieted right the way down, like it's easier to get to that point, but then you try and push for that little bit more, and maybe the fat distribution is very slightly different. Like, so, you know, for if you've not prepped before, maybe, or you've only prepped a couple of times, then, you know, some people, like bits that you've never had fat off, like your glutes is a good example. Like,
Yeah.
it's really fucking hard to get that off, and you can be absolutely peeled the rest of your body, but still not have that bit off, and you just might not get it off in that first prep or your second prep.
Absolutely. And then like again, muscle mass though, like you need muscle there to actually see that condition. So it's just like, you know, if they're peeled all over but the glutes are in, but the glutes are tiny, they're probably not going to be in. So it's just like you batter them into the ground and like you end up looking stringy as fucking, but they're already peeled in there for them. Do you know what I mean? But it's just the muscle's not there. So
Yeah, I think that described me perfectly on my second prep, to be honest. Like, I look at photos of me like 4 weeks out, and I looked fucking way fuller in my upper half, way more. I'd be way more happy with that than what I put on stage. But my glutes weren't super in, and I did get them in on stage, but my glutes were tiny. So I just sacrificed loads to get glutes that weren't even that impressive. And at the end of the day, but you've got to do these things to kind of.
Yeah. Everyone wants the shredded glute, don't they? It's like the pinnacle, isn't it? The shredded glute.
How do you feel about that? 'Cause I mean, like, obviously, so that's a fucking weird conversation to have with a guy, but like, your glutes were fucking peeled, right? And this year they looked proper walnut glutes. How I take, because you have it? Are you someone that, like, is that, how important is that to you getting that in? Is what I'm trying to say.
It's important, mate, because I know once that's in, like I'm fucking peeled. So like I've got to. That's the standard, isn't it, of my physique? I'll get lean to the point where everything's in, low back's in, glutes are in, and they come in. So it's just like that's the standard I've got to get to. And, you know,
So, I mean, you look at some of the, even some of the classic bodybuilders in like 90s that people love to bang on about being the best generation. I do think there were some amazing bodybuilders there. But like, you look at some of their stage shots, and their glutes were not in every single show. You know, these like.
No. It's got more extreme as it's gotten on, hasn't it? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. The standard has definitely changed, especially with glute conditioning. Like, that specifically is you've got to have it.
Yeah.
Unless you're Samson or Andrew Jack or something like that, then, and even then they still have glutes in, right? But it's just, you know, maybe different caliber. So actually, on that note, we'll do last question. I think it's a good question to end on. Is, what are your Olympia predictions for Classic and Open? We'll do Classic first, because I'll be honest, I don't massively follow Classic. I do a bit.
I was just about to say I don't really follow Classic, to be honest.
Yeah. So, but I mean, I think Bumstead will win it again, because I think he'll just win it until he stops doing it. Personally.
Yeah, I'd agree with that, to be honest. Yeah, I would. Who else is there? That other Portuguese guy, Brazilian guy, isn't there? I don't really follow it, mate, to be honest, so I wouldn't want to give an answer on that one.
I want the guy Wesley Bissers to do well, because but only because I went to a seminar. I was in a gym not that far away at the start of the year, and I went to a seminar and got a photo where I totally out-angled his quads. And so I want to say that there's a photo of me with bigger quads than like the second in the World League Classic. So I'll take that. What do you think about it?
He looks great though. I mean, he's massive as well though for a Classic guy.
Yeah, he's fucking huge. He's really wide, like proper wide.
He could if he obviously bulked up more. He could probably go into obviously a bit more open, because he is massive, like. But obviously it suits him because he's got a nice small waist and stuff. So
Yeah, well, I mean, he's not got the tight. His waist is small. It's not the
That's
same
what
as
I'm
like a
saying.
monster. Yeah,
Yeah, cool.
I like how his waist looks though. In my opinion, it looks like Arnold, right? Like it is kind
Yeah.
of blocky. Is not the right word, but it's a specific rib cage structure he's got that I think it looks quite cool, like for how big he is.
Yeah.
So what about open then? What's your feelings?
Well, people always go straight up to the top three. They're always going,
Yeah,
Derek, Hardy, and Samson, right? But like Samson looks phenomenal. I'd love for Samson to place higher than third. Do you know what I mean? Like everyone keeps putting him at third, but he's an awesome bodybuilder, and he looks so good for this year, mate. So what I would I'd like to see him come first, but he's probably not going to come first. Probably say Derek. Haddy, Samson. I don't like Nick Walker's physique, if I'm honest with you. Probably Martin or Andrew, and then Nick, and then yeah. It's a
do you
tough
think
one.
Martin will take Nick?
I'd like to see that. Yeah, I'd like to see that.
I could see it. I just don't know if he's quite ready yet. I don't know if because I think that show. I think Nick was a bit off.
Yeah,
and I think Andrew it made it look closer than it should be.
Yeah, and Andrew Jack looks obviously insane, but he just needs a bit more time, I think, with it all. So
yeah, I mean that last show he looked way better. He was like 275 on stage or something like that? I mean it was.
No, it's heavier than that, I'm pretty sure.
Or was it 275 last year and this year it was 295 or something like that?
Yes, it was. Yeah.
I think. I mean, I basically agree with your top five. I think realistically, I think they'll give it to Derek because, he's like the all-American little.
That's it. Yeah.
Right. I think Haddy will get it in second because he definitely right now can't let an Iranian guy win the fucking Olympia. There's no chance with everything going on that he's winning it. But I would like if Samson and Andrew can be just conditioned enough. I think because they're kind of apples and oranges, right? So it's either going to be Derek and Haddy will be top two, or it would have to be Samson and Andrew would be top two in my opinion, because they're more comparable. And I would love to see Samson win it, and I think if that happened, Andrew would come second. But
I would as well, mate. He's a great guy as well, but his waist looks a lot more controlled and tighter as well, even more so this year as well. So he looks very aesthetic, mate. He's got a very nice, pleasing physique. I'd love to see that be at the top because it's just lovely, mate. Do you know what I mean?
It is.
That just mass. It looks great.
Yeah, the fact that we're now at the point where we've got bodybuilders with those kind of aesthetics, but 300 pounds on stage is absolutely mental. But saying that also makes me feel completely fucking incompetent because there's no biological. It doesn't matter how much Tren I'm taking. There's no way I will ever look like that. It's just not fucking happening. It does. That was like when Andrew Jack the fucking video came out of him in that last show. It's just you can't. No one can compete with that unless you're right at that. They're yeah, absolutely crazy, absolutely wild. All right, I appreciate you coming on. I'll wrap up now. I think an hour is a pretty good amount of time. And I do appreciate you coming on. I know it took a while to get the fucking link set up. So, with that being said, is there anyone you want to plug or do codes or any of that kind of stuff?
I'll obviously put out Full Bores code. Obviously, I'm sponsored by Full Bore Sports. Literally just go on Google, type it in. Everything that you need, obviously supplementation wise, top quality, health subs, proteins, everything's on there. Literally, it's a one-stop shop. My code is JKH10, and that'll give you a bit of a discount. And yeah, man, all is good. Other than that,
are you taking on clients? Do you want to plug your coaching?
Yeah, so if you look on obviously Instagram, jharrison_BB. I'm an online coach as well. I do that on the side of what I actually do as a job. That's gone really well actually. So yeah, I've been doing that for a couple of years now. I didn't want to like just jump straight in and be that guy like, oh, I've done a show, I'm doing being a coach now. So I took the time to actually learn what I do and kind of coach people and just set off from there. And it's been booming since really. So that's good. So if you do need any coaching, then jump on the Instagram, give me a DM, and we'll have a chat.
All right, perfect, mate. No, I really appreciate that, and thank you again for coming on. I'll let you enjoy the rest of your evening.
No worries, man. Thanks so much, mate. Appreciate it.
All right, cheers, man. Catch you later.
Cheers now. See you, mate. Bye.